Welcome back to our studio. You're watching World Talks and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, is on her 4-day trip to the Western Balkans, where she is meeting leaders of the Western Balkan countries, which aspire to become part of the European Union. After her visit to North Macedonia, the EU Commission president had a lot of praise for the country and its leader, but how far has North Macedonia actually managed to progress on its way to the EU? To discuss this, I'm joined by Tomasz Żornaczuk, head of Central Europe program at the Polish Institute of International Affairs. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Let's first start with a slightly broader look, because as we mentioned only a second ago, Ursula von der Leyen is not only visiting North Macedonia, but she's visiting other Western Balkan countries. Why would you say she took that trip? What's the context?
She took that trip to say, to send the main message that the place of all the Western Balkan countries is in the EU, and the context indeed is very important here. First of all, there is going to be a change of the European Commission very soon, in the weeks to come. So it is important for her to say that there will be a continuation of this enlargement approach to the Western Balkans, that the Western Balkans are important for the Commission and that the place of this region is within the EU. This is also very important in the Eastern context, in the Eastern enlargement context, while the eyes of whole Europe are on Ukraine for obvious reasons, but also on Moldova when we are in the middle of presidential elections, crucial for the future of the EU integration of this country. And this Sunday we also have elections in Georgia, very crucial for the likewise EU integration of the country. So in order to say that not only we're looking on the eastern part where all the Europe is looking now, at the same time we don't forget about the Balkans, which for the last 2 decades were the main region for the EU enlargement. As such, that's the second main point of this context, I would say. Important is also that there is a crisis in the EU enlargement of the Western Balkans. We don't have time to go into the details much, but it's enough to say that Montenegro is negotiating.
So you would say that these countries are behind schedule when it comes to EU accession, as of now?
They are behind the schedule that we know. If we look at Croatia, that was negotiating less than 6 years, and we have Montenegro that is most advanced in the talks with the EU, and it is negotiating already over 12 years. Now it is easy to say that it is behind the schedule. I'm not going country by country, but this lack of, or the slow pace of the enlargement is very important. But she also went there just days before the European Commission is going to present a package on the EU enlargement. This is something that the Commission is presenting every year, usually in October. And this is a very detailed progress report on each and every 35 chapters that those countries are negotiating. There is a growth plan of 6 billion, etc. And last but not least, this is a visit to send a very positive message. You will not see any condemnation, so to say, or any sour words on what is going on in the region, because this...
So it's more about reassurance and about unity.
It is rather about the balance of a political good message versus what we're gonna read in these reports. And in these reports, we're gonna read the same thing that we read every year: corruption, lack of transparency in many cases.
So it's a sort of a situation, good cup, bad cup.
It's the same cup, because the report is of the Commission that the von der Leyen is leading.
So realistically, how far, because we wanted to take a closer look at North Macedonia, how close is that particular country to EU accession?
Not very close. It is very far, I would say, and it is not the fault of Macedonia itself in a big part. This country is on the EU path for 2 decades now. It was recommended by the Commission almost 20 years ago to give the candidate status, then to start the negotiations. It was blocked by Greece for many years, and after this dispute was solved in 2019-2020, when the country changed the name, then France stepped in to block the whole process, and now Bulgaria is blocking North Macedonia's path on the EU on the basis of historic and linguistic issues, let's say. In short, Bulgaria wants Macedonia to claim that those are actually Bulgarians who were part of Serbian or Yugoslav engineering during the Tito time, and that the Macedonian language is in fact a Bulgarian language, something that is completely opposite to the modern Macedonian identity. But the least they want is for North Macedonia to include a Bulgarian national minority that exists in North Macedonia to the constitution, which requires 2/3, that is 80 out of 120 votes in the parliament. I'm not going more into the details with this very absurd issue, but I'm just going to say that Bulgaria, that is demanding this change in North Macedonia, has not recognized a single national minority in its own country.
I wanted to take a look at the influence that the recent May 2024 parliamentary elections have on the situation with the EU accession, because we know that the conservative VMRO, DPMNE party and its Young Macedonia coalition won the majority. We know that the parties that were that were more pro-European were somewhat left behind. How would you say that affected the dynamics when it comes to the EU accession within North Macedonia?
To be very much honest with you, it didn't. Putting aside the composition of the parliament and the composition of the government in the moment, nothing has changed when it comes to...
So there was no discussion by the conservative, by the conservative coalition that won the majority, that we are perhaps not wanting to be closer to the EU, maybe we should rethink what's happening within the dynamics in the Balkan region?
All right. Yeah, they are open to talk, and they want to. The official parties' line, and I would even say the actions they take, show that they are into the EU integration of their country. But I tend to say nothing has changed because Bulgaria has not changed its position. In other words, no matter what government we're going to have in Skopje, Bulgaria still is staying on the same position, claiming that Macedonia includes Bulgarian minority in its constitution before it can take a single step into towards the EU. Now, the new government actually took an initiative saying that we might do so, but because the guarantee from the EU is completely non-credible, since we already did what we were supposed to do, that is something that is hard to imagine. We changed our name on the promise from the EU to go on the path, and we didn't, because we were blocked first by France and now by Bulgaria. So because there is no guarantees, you can give us no political guarantees, we can do it the other way. Namely, we will adopt in the parliament the inclusion of the Bulgarian minority in the constitution, but we will only implement it once Macedonia joins the Union. That is, you will not, guys, blackmail us any longer on the way, because once we do that, we have no guarantee that no other issue will pop up.
So what would you say could be the solution? What help does North Macedonia need in this particular situation in order to be able to move forward? Because it's, from what you're saying, it seems to be the case that it's being blocked on different sides. So how would have to, if the European Union really wants to see Western Balkan countries, including North Macedonia, joining the Union, what kind of help could they provide?
Okay. There is two elements. One, they are indeed blocked, but they are not blocked on the merit-based issues that come from the nature of the EU enlargement. Of course, the good neighborly relations are key for the negotiations, but not the key for the negotiation is claiming that a country that is built on a national identity with its own language, with its own nation, is actually a part as a whole of something that is a dialect of Bulgarian, or that are Bulgarian people gone through an engineering of Serbia. That is not the nature of the enlargement. The solution is very radical, and it is not on the side of the North Macedonia, but on the side of the EU. Saying again, aside of all the problems that Macedonia has, for the last 15 years, they were not going much closer to the EU, not because what was going on within or with the reforms, but the blockage of the EU. And this is where we have to look for the solution of the problem. The solution would be qualified majority voting as far as the steps on the path of the candidate countries are concerned, meaning that one country would have no veto rights that Bulgaria is using or abusing towards Macedonia.
Wonderful. Tomasz Żornaczuk, head of Central Europe program, the Polish Institute of International Affairs. Thank you so much for joining me this morning in the studio.
Thank you very much.
And so this would be all here on World Talks, but please remember to stay tuned here on TVP World for more news and features, as we will be back with you very soon.